You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
And away we go for the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take. It is November 1st. Can you believe it? Where did the month of October go? Where did Halloween go, Rosie? What's going on, buddy?
She came and went, my man. Did you manage to venture off the couch and out of your house, or did that ship sail?
That ship sailed, had a couple requests to go out, and I fought the power. I fought the urge. I sat on my couch for the majority of the night, watched some TV, watched some hockey. I felt good about life. How was your night?
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
It was good. She was a little chilly, a little foggy. It was kind of a Halloween mood out there, but yeah, my kids are old enough. They're kind of off on their own. I sat on the driveway in front of a fire with the Leafs game on my lap and just handed out some chocolate bars.
Did you get after it the way you intended to, or what?
No, that was last year. I kind of pumped the brakes on it, and it felt like we had like a full house. There was probably 25 kids in my basement, but a couple of mama bears were looking a little full on their way home. So good for them. They had some fun.
11:27 Eastern time. I'm mangled. So a different Jay Rosehill, or what?
Easy.
You got after it a bit, no?
All right, the group chats are public. All right, sounds good.
Oh,
Duly
no,
noted.
okay. You didn't get after it last night at all. No, there's nothing wrong with that. You mentioned you might
brakes.
feel it around a bit.
I pumped the brakes hard. I was on my way and then pumped them. I thought it was like 10 o'clock at night and it was 7:45, so that was a good feeling.
It's a tough feel when you're feeling it and you're like, you know what, I better chill out a bit. You know?
I've gotten better at that. I used to not have that button, and now I've learned it. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody.
Good to hear. Good to hear your Halloween was good. The costume was good, or what?
No, I just put my hunting gear on again,
Yeah.
but there's a couple good costumes that come up. I like something different that pops, and a few of the kids had things going on, but just your standard stuff for the most part.
KPG writes in, hey, Nick, got to call out Zach for jumping the gun in the stash. I did talk about that via Twitter. I checked out the Leafs Nation After Dark last night as well. That's got to be a multi-game suspension. If you start Movember on Halloween and you start with a mustache, you're supposed to start it from the beginning, no?
Doesn't bother me as long
Yeah.
as you keep the stash. If you're doing the thing and you can grow a good one, you might as well get a head start and just have a nice bushy one by the end of November. I think that's just fine with me. No fault.
Zach's looking great right now, man. He's got the mullet. He's got the mustache going. And as producer Vic says, he's raising awareness a day early. That's a really good point to make, producer Vic. So feeling good about the Leafs Nation After Dark. Feeling good in general about the Maple Leafs. And this time of year, we love sort of the human part of everything of Halloween, and it's for the kids. You talked about it on the show the other day. I don't know if you caught this little kid named Grayson dressed up as Austin Matthews for Halloween, and he got to meet his idol yesterday and go to the game. How cool is that?
I know, it's funny. My wife sent me that on whatever the hell, something, and I saw it and I said, oh, that's cool. Nice little costume the parents put together for the kid. And then last night before going to bed, looked at him meeting, or when was that? Yeah, it must have been, but meeting Austin, everything, pregame skate, and got to do the full meal deal. So that's pretty cool. And it just shows parents what can happen if you put a little effort into the kid's Halloween costume.
I was just wondering, how do you sit in that costume? Do you have to take the box off and then just sit in the Matthews costume, or?
Yeah, you don't take that box off. I think Dad slides it over your head and you hit the squatty potty, but that's probably about it. I think there's worse Halloween costumes for going to the bathroom, and I would imagine.
Man, my buddy sent me one yesterday. He went to this Halloween party and he dressed up. I don't even know. He's like wearing a dragon. Like it was like a puffed out costume, and it was so ridiculous. I'm like, how's this guy going to piss half the night? If you're going to have a couple beers, you're going to have to piss at some point.
Just go, man. Just go.
You think so?
Yeah, must have to. I don't know. Yeah, there's a few good ones out there. Some of those ones that have a little fan in them and keep them inflated and stuff, they're getting pretty good out there. They look like someone's stealing you, or you're riding a unicorn or some shit. But yeah, pretty neat.
Those things are overrated. I think my brother was I forget what he was, a sumo wrestler one year, and he was talking about the fan was so overrated because optically it looks great, but actually having to have that fan apparently doesn't work as good as we thought it would work.
Yeah, maybe I stay away from that stuff. I want to get creative again. Maybe next year I'll do something out of the blue and creative, because I haven't really put my head into it for a couple of years. So missed opportunity.
It's okay. Great to hear you had a good time. I can't believe it's November 1st, man. Time flies when you're having fun, and that's it. That's all for the first month of the regular season for the Maple Leafs. Speaking of which, we've talked about it a lot on the show this week. Yanni Hakanpaa and Connor Dewar are closing in on their season debuts. They've been assigned to the AHL for a conditioning stint. I'm curious to see how these guys look when they're called up again.
Me too. Yeah, I think it makes total sense they're going there, though. They've been out for a while, especially when your injury comes from the off season and goes right into the regular season. I mean, it's not like you can just pick up where you left off, because where you left off was eons ago. So doesn't surprise me at all, but we'll see how much we'll see how many reps they want them to get down there, right? I don't know if it'll I would think like a nice week there, and then come back and practice pretty damn hard, and then get them into some game action. But no real rush when it's been this long. But I'm not surprised they're going to go get some action with the Marlies. I think that's a smart move, and it sets them up for more success than just throwing them into the fire.
Our chat's smaller or smarter than us, I should say. Maybe somebody remind us how many games they can actually spend in the American Hockey League. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think there is no rush to get these guys back. I think it's got to be 3 or 4 games. They play the back-to-back this weekend, do the Maple Leafs. It's usually, 3 and 4 in the AHL. Like, they're going to get some prime opportunity to get some reps. I'd be shocked, Rosie, if we don't see these guys by, say, Thursday or Friday next week at the latest.
Yeah, we'll see. Depends what the Marlies' schedule is. I know they play Cleveland on Saturday, so that's kind of a no-brainer. But those conditioning stints, you can let them go down there and get some conditioning. It's not like you can play 2 games and then you're up. So we'll
Yeah.
see what their schedule is. But I mean, yeah, I should look at the Marlies schedule and compare it to the Leafs schedule. It would have to line up, but I would think you'd want to give them 3 games down there, and get some good reps in, and then all of a sudden, good hard practice, one of the days off with the Leafs, and away you go. So we'll see how they play it, but I think the schedule will be dependent on it.
Our chat's great. Tammy writes in, "I'm hungover, LOL." Then Robert responds with, "Put some Tylenol to ya." And then KPG writes in, "Tammy have a double vodka Caesar." So I love the state of our chat here on November 1st. I totally understand yesterday was Halloween, so I understand if a bunch of you got into it.
Hair of the dog, man. The same thing that got you into it will get you out of it. And those Caesars, beer and clam, which I introduced you to. That's just
Yes.
such a Western thing, man. Beer and then just shot a clam in there. Oh, it's up there with the Caesar for sure for that good morning feeling.
Man, that changed my life when you showed me that. I thought it was fantastic. And
You do
props
it
to
still?
producer. Pardon me?
You do it?
I don't. Only when I'm with you. I think a couple times we've done it now, right?
It's good, hey?
Oh, I'm a Caesar guy, man. I came around on Caesars a couple years ago, but you talk about a hair of the dog. Just sometimes you need that. And Caesars are interesting because you'll know right away if you're going to floor it that night or if you're not. But like, it's a good measuring stick, a Caesar.
Well, the problem is you don't need to start flooring it in the morning when you're just trying to take the edge off. This is just alcoholism 101. So maybe I'll get off of this. I've cleaned it up this year, actually. I went a little
Yeah.
squirrely during COVID, so I've been a little smarter with the old sauce, and I'm going to try to stay on that train. But apparently this chat's not helping me go in that direction.
No, I know they're promoting it maybe, but it's funny. When I was in Mexico a couple weeks ago, I got wind that they made Caesars like halfway through the trip, and they were becoming a normal occurrence. We'll say at 9:30 a.m. But anyways,
Mexico?
yeah,
Oh,
I was stunned, man.
no shit. They got
Yeah.
good Canadian content down there, so they probably tracked down some Clamato juice. Was it like a normal Canadian Caesar? It was
Dude,
clam and everything?
they were good. And like, I mean, those are harder to make, and they were excellent. I was impressed.
Yeah, it's nice. You go to the States and they're like, I'd make you a Bloody Mary. And it's just like, they don't even understand how much different that is. I find those quite gross, and Caesars are just delicious.
Oh, it's so annoying. I was going to mention too, producer Vic, thank you for the data. 6 days or 3 games for LTIR conditioning. Teams are allowed to ask for an extension of 2 or more games. So
Right.
there's your answer when it comes to Hakanpaa and Dewar. But long story short, we're going to see these guys at the NHL level very soon. And it just adds more depth to this Maple Leafs roster, right?
Yeah, especially on the back end. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Hakanpaa has to offer. I think you need to temper your expectations because he has been out for a considerable amount of time. His everything is going to be a little bit off. So I would take the first 3 to 4 games, instead of piling on the guy if it doesn't go swimmingly, I would say, well, this is expected. Let him get his feet under him, and then let's kind of start judging where he's at. Because I just don't think it's fair to take that much time off and then throw a guy into this market and expect him to be performing at a high-end level that everyone's impressed by as soon as you jump out of the gate. I think that that's something you need to pay attention to, and we should do that as well.
We should definitely. We got another fun guest on today's podcast from NHL Network Radio. As a host of the Power Play there. Steve Kouleas is coming up in about 10 minutes or so right now. Watches the Leafs very closely and always has an opinion. I love that.
Yes, me too. Once again, be good to pick his brain and just get different points of view on the Leafs and see who's hearing different buzz and has different takes, and just overall see where he thinks this team's headed. And it's nice to do it after a win like that, because it'll probably be more positive than anything.
Very true. 6-4-1 and 11 outings in the month of October. Make sure you get those super chats in at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And again, don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca to see why Square is big in restaurants. So the Maple Leafs, Rosie, take care of business on Halloween, a 4-1 win against the Seattle Kraken. Of note, they're now 6-1-0 all-time against the Kraken. I thought Joseph Woll was really good, first and foremost, 24 saves for his first of the season. And you got to credit Willie Nylander. I know I sort of harped on him a bit on yesterday's show about bitching about ice time a bit to the media, but comes out 2 goals, +2, 6 shots on goal. Your prototypical Willie game there.
Yeah, pretty solid. Yeah, I thought it was kind of ballsy to even like what benefit do you have talking about that in the media? But he was the highest played forward yesterday, I believe. I think he was kind of tied with Mitch, but he played more than Morgan Riley. And I don't know, I saw in the highlights they were saying that he still was under his average. I'm like, okay, let's settle down if he's leading all forwards and some of your premier D-men in ice time. I hope this doesn't become a theme. I hope this doesn't become a narrative around him. It's just one of the issues that you can have with airing some kind of grievance into the media. So I hope it's the last we hear of it. But yeah, he looked solid. But one thing that stood out to me was, getting ripped by Berube on that one play where, you make the wrong play. You have the red line gained and you don't get it deep. You don't chip it. You don't maintain possession. It goes the other way in such a hurry in that league. And like, that's the point with Craig Berube. You go and get 2 goals. That's great. Everyone knows you're a good player, Willie. That's great. But if we're going to win a Stanley Cup, we're going to have to do these other intangible things extremely well. And when you have the puck cleared the red line and you go south with it and then get your pocket picked and then go down and get an odd man rush against, it's just so bloody inexcusable. So for him to come back and get ripped, I think that's an absolute necessity to this group, because it's going to start with Craig Berube riding those guys about those little details that absolutely matter. Like, the teams that win Stanley Cups do not do that crap. They just don't. So it's going to start off with Craig demanding that gets taken out of everyone's game. And eventually the goal is to have the guys start demanding of themselves better than those types of plays. And if it's a 60% play for Willie, I'm sorry, you have to do the smart thing with that. You have to do the high percentage play, just because like the 40% chance, it can't end up in the back of your net, and it's going to end up being game 6 or game 7. And if they have that crap still in their game, it's going to be in the back of their net, and that's going to be the difference. And that's why Craig Berube is yelling at a guy that's having a stellar game.
I love the ego check first and foremost. Craig Berube is not afraid to go against the grain. And while you're feeling all great, you're Willie Nylander, you got 2 goals, that giveaway is not acceptable. I love that the big picture is in mind with this whole thing. Yeah, you're having a good game. There have been moments throughout this season where the big boys have been humming, but I like the fact that Berube's got the big picture in mind and the process, and he wants to see that consistency, and there's that accountability. Like, you could probably count on one hand how many times Sheldon Keefe, and again, not to pin this on him, I think he's an excellent coach, doing a great job with New Jersey, but for these guys, you need this type of coach. And I think eventually it will get through. I think that's the point we're trying to make here, is eventually they're going to remember next time they want to cough up the puck to make a safer play, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that those kind of plays got swept under the rug in the past. Just call it what it is. They did. They weren't held accountable for that kind of stuff. It's like, well, I'm not going to yell at Willie. He's having a game, and he's standing back door twice and bangs in those 2 goals. I mean, that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want every other shift. It just doesn't. Those are the plays that, I mean, it looks awful. Like the whole thing they're preaching is north, north, north hockey, straight line hockey. He gains the blue line, then goes back over to his own side of the red line, then gets his pocket picked, then they go down and almost bury. I mean, it's just so unacceptable. And the teams that win do not do that kind of thing. So it's refreshing to see Berube say, hey, I don't care. We're not doing that. And I mean, why do you think he took the Blues from dead last in the league to winning a Stanley Cup? It was not putting up with that kind of crap. And do you want to be a good team or do you want to be a great team? That's what he's going to be telling those guys. And the sooner that Willie holds himself to that standard and refuses to make those kinds of plays, the better it's going to be for himself and everyone else around him. And I like that they're calling out those little intangible things that ultimately make a difference.
You know what I thought was interesting? Nylander only has one career hat trick, and it came 7 years ago. Like, think about that. Think about a 40-goal scorer, a perennial 40-goal scorer. He's got 31 career 2-goal games, just one hattie in his career.
That's kind of surprising to me,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's a consummate multi-point man, so that doesn't really bother me or worry me. I know Austin's had a few, and it seems like JT's had a few. I wonder if Marner's had a couple and what his stats are, but I would have thought Willie would have a few more than that.
The following interview is brought to you by our Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com as we bring in today's guest from SiriusXM NHL Network Radio. It is Steve Kulus. Kouleas, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Oh, we don't have him.
Kouleas, we're going to try to reconnect with you on the audio. If we can just go back out and come back in, and we'll try to figure this out. But we love having Stevie K on the show to break down the Maple Leafs moving forward and coming up. A 4-1 win here against the Seattle Kraken. So Woll was good. Nylander, a good performance. And I liked, again, Rosie, what I saw from Pacioretty, Tavares, and Nylander. That line in general, a 5-point outing for them.
I know. You know how they you know how you're looking for that formula and they keep messing around with lines, like boom, I think they found one. And every time I think about how we were talking, like I think we did a take it or leave it on whether we wanted Pacioretty signed to a PTO, and like it was pretty 50-50 split. Like games moved on, oh, we've already tried bringing in older guys and it doesn't work, and we've seen this movie before. This guy has come in and not just been like warranted of a spot on the roster, like get him with these big boys and he's 100% effective. So I look back at that and laugh and say, thank God they did that. It was a low risk play, cost him next to nothing, and he is proving his worth right now with the chemistry that line has, for sure.
Certainly. Pacioretty's been a promising story early on in the season, and it seems like they've found something here as well with this line in general. And there seems to be that connection. And Nylander has been a guy who's been much more noticeable the last couple games. So check. But we talked about this yesterday. If there's one guy who doesn't care that you want more ice time, it's probably Craig Berube, right, Rosie?
Yeah, he doesn't. And I mean, when I was talking about not wanting, not loving, wanting to see a pattern of him talking about his ice time in the media and stuff like that. It's the last thing you want when you're trying to demand something out of a room that hasn't had these demands on them, is to kind of lose the room or have some guys turn their back on you or think that they have the right way. And then you get this tug of war going on. And the thing with Craig Berube is he goes about it in such a rational way that it's almost impossible to argue with. He's not doing the Mike Babcock mind games and dicking around and selling guys out and burying guys and embarrassing guys and trying to motivate through all these archaic ways. He's just a very plain and simple, this is just what it is. It's all good. And it just makes it almost impossible to argue with. So I like that even though, Willie chose to go down that road a little bit, not a huge deal, but the fact that he is talking about his ice time publicly, I don't love to see it. But with Craig Berube there, I just can't see how you could go down a road that's all too negative, because he's just too much of a common sense guy.
Yeah, and that's the intriguing part about this whole thing. Even Matthew Knies, man, he's had an unbelievable start to this season, 6 goals in 11 games. He just continues to impress, and that price tag continues to go up and up, eh?
I know. I just wonder. We were talking about it yesterday around the fire. Like, is he going to bridge that thing, or does he want to lock down a 7-year deal? If he does, I think he's going to say, I'm going to be worth a lot, so it's going to have to be a pretty healthy chunk of dough. Or does he want to bridge it and bet on himself? I guess we'll see. But no matter what happens, I think that guy's going to continue to get better and be a presence on this lineup. I mean, he just seems to be every game. He seems to get in on something. What's he had, like 5 goals in 6 games or something like that? I can't remember, but he just seems to be everywhere, and he's got that quick snap release. Like when those big boys get him the puck, he does not mess around with it. He's not surprised. He's not nervous. He's not gripping his stick. He just friggin' buries it, and it's pretty impressive to see him do that at with his experience level. His stock just keeps going through the roof.
6 and 11 for Matthew Knies. What a shot! What a pool cue shot by Austin Matthews on the empty netter too, right? Like he's sort of like fighting it. He's like a fraction off, and it just speaks volumes how great this guy truly is. Continues to find a way to get points and score goals, and if you can find a pretty empty netter, that was it yesterday.
I know. I mean, with those empty netters, it's later in the period and there's snow built up. I know they shovel it and whatnot, but it's not ideal. It doesn't always come off perfect, but it looks like he was playing it out on a billiards table, man. He had that perfect, and you don't see it very often. Guys don't really try it, but good on him. It just shows his awareness and his skill level that he can pot one dead center of the net, even banking it off the dasher, which doesn't always work out that well. Would think that would maybe pop up or roll on him or whatever, but it was pure as day, and he looked like he knew exactly what he was doing.
For some reason, Marner and Matthews just seem to own the Seattle Kraken too. And maybe you could speak to this in your playing days as well. Like some teams you just feel comfortable against, right? Like for one way or another. I don't know if you felt the same way, but there had to be a couple of teams where like, damn, I might have a points night here.
Well, I didn't really feel that all too often, but yeah, there are different teams that you tend to match up with against. Some teams you just feel like the game's meant for. I mean, seemed to play Boston a lot, and I mean they had
Yeah.
some heaviness and some toughness, so obviously I'd be in them a lot. If they were taking it to us, I'd probably play more minutes than I was used to. I think the most I've ever played was like 13 minutes or something against Boston, but those big boys, the big point guys seem to have their comfortability against certain opposition, even though things change year to year. But yeah, the Kraken seem to be a little bit labeled by the big boys, and like you say, it's nice when they come into town. It was a good time to do it, and they're, like I said, they're putting those building blocks together, and it's working.
Very encouraged once again by Joseph Woll. He wasn't really spoken about a lot in last night's game because the Maple Leafs just were having the way. I thought it was the prototypical Berube game, by the way, just low scoring, tight checking, attention to detail, like check, check, and check, forecheck. But Woll made a couple big saves, and I have to credit the D. They were blocking a bunch of shots. I think there's a lot of buy-in there. Ekman Larson, Tanev. I thought Riley had a good night. I think they played as one cohesive unit, which you love to see. But this is encouraging stuff where you see Joseph Woll and it's so quiet. You don't even talk about it. I thought he was very, very Woll-like in his performance last night.
Yeah, it's funny. We were like talking about what to expect yesterday and what the hopes were and expectations, and for him to have for him to come in on that Thursday against that opponent and for them to play well in front of him was huge. I don't think it went very well for his debut after missing several weeks to start the season and hadn't even been in a real game since back in the playoffs. So for them to perform like that in front of him, and he looked solid. Now the narrative is very positive, where the narrative, say he stumbles, it would be like, oh, now Woll's the clear number 2, and is this Anthony Stolar's crease? And away we go with the media, right? It was perfect timing for him to come in, be solid. He didn't have to stand on his head. They didn't crap the bed right in front of him. Everything went to plan, and now he has that layer of confidence going into the weekend and these back-to-backs. He's going to play again, and we'll see if he can build on that. But that's exactly what he needed, was to get his feet under him, get some confidence, get some saves, get a convincing effort in front of him, and feel good about everything. So Woll's well on his way to being right there shoulder to shoulder with Stoli, which is exactly what you wanted.
1000%. And I think in turn, I think it's important to stress too, the team in front of him was much better. If you recall the game last Thursday, a game I attended against St. Louis, it was just a tough effort defensively where there was a couple 2-on-1s. I don't remember an odd man rush last night. Like that's a positive
Willie.
development as well from a defensive standpoint. The Maple Leafs really locked in against Seattle.
Yeah, it's just those. I mean, why would odd man rushes even be present? There's a mistake that happens. There's a turnover. There's a lost assignment. There's some floating or some lackadaisical efforts, or do what Willie did and turn the puck over when no one expects you to and catch your D-man by surprise. That's all the stuff that they're really trying to get out of their game, because we know that they can score some goals and we know that they have talent, but clearly they've proven that's not good enough to get the job done when it matters. So what needs to go? It's that garbage. It's not playing north-south hockey. It's the spot passing and the drop passing and the not getting it deep and then refusing to chip it and not forechecking. Those are all those things that need to come in. So if you have all the skill that they have and you have the ability to do the things that those players have to do, and your game is clean and sound and defensively responsible, I mean, look out for that team. It's just they haven't been able to get there. And now that
I'm using
the Chiefs there, I hope we're there, man.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing is that I think they're
no?
coming at you in droves as well, right? I think the whole droves aspect of the fact that every shift it's going to be consistent. They're rolling and they're rolling and rolling. We've been looking at that for years, no?
And do you think Willie's pissed off that when he comes off the ice, he gets an earful for that thing? Or like sometimes it seems like he's like, well, that wasn't that bad. And I've played with guys who are skilled and they're like, well, relax, man. It was just a turnover. But it's like, no, if we're going to be okay with doing that, that's always going to be in our game. And it's going to bite you when you least need it, which is going to be in the playoffs or an elimination game or something of that factor. And it's just unacceptable for a team that wants to be at the very top of the NHL. Simple as that.
Let's ask our guy, Steve Kulus. Steve, I believe we got you now. How's it going?
Check 1, 2. Yes, I'm here. I didn't click the way Jamal Mayers did with Jay on that goal. I was at that game in 2009, and you'll always be able to say I beat Marc-Andre Fleury and forced him to retire 15 years later, Jay.
Oh, Steve, you're a hockey historian. You know what? I think that goal always haunted him, and that is why he is walking into retirement 15 years later. Love it, man. Thanks for remembering. I didn't get a whole lot of those, but it's nice to talk about one once in a while.
Yeah, it was a great goal.
Cooley, so what's your read? We talking about Nylander. He scored many of great goals, a couple backdoor tap-ins, I would say, against Seattle. What's your read on the whole ice time situation and how Nylander's played so far this season?
Well, I think he's had a good year. Everyone wants more ice time. The Leafs had to change something with their penalty kill because, for the most part, the PK has killed them in the postseason, and it hurt them in the regular season to the point where they never won the division. I'm in the group that says they win the division. They might get wild card 2 from the Metro, and that's better than going through Boston and Florida, although Boston's not playing well right now, but the Leafs lost to Boston in Boston again. They need a different route. They can't go down Route 63. They got to find a new highway. And if that's Washington, Islanders, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be there. And then if it's a Florida in a second round or something else. So Willie can ask for more ice time. Something had to change with the PK. As long as it went to the coach first, right, gentlemen? If it went to the media first, I don't like that. Through the coach, talk about it. I don't like sulking or airing dirty laundry. I think that stays in the dressing room, Jay.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't like anything about it. I think it's just you're asking for nastiness and negativity and some outside things to creep into the locker room and animosity. Like nothing about that is conducive to a championship team. So I don't like to see Willie do. I don't see any benefit to him to putting that in the media. But Craig Berube, it's not going to rattle his feathers at all. What do you think about him coming in here and the accountability that he's trying to hold with this group?
Well, he didn't apologize for having the little tit-a-tat with Marner and Matthews, I guess it was last week, and then didn't, backtrack. Going back, if I can, the Leafs went from Mike Babcock and Lou Lamoriello and gave 2 newbies the keys to the castle. That was a big mistake. Those 2 guys should have ran Columbus, not the Leafs. Now the Leafs have gone back to Brad Treliving and Craig Berube. So those were wasted years in there. It was wasted years on not having enough Jay Rosehills and not having enough players up and down the lineup instead of having, I go way back to Verhaeghe and Mason Marchment and other guys in the system but they rather go and it was too much just, I think, on numbers. And now that they're gone and it's this administration, they want to layer the team. Like Don Tavares is the second line center. You know, he was sick at the start of the year. Nylander's not a centerman. They're layered. If Max is the third line center or moves up to the wing, if Pacioretty can play. So they're way better layered than they've been. Tanev has been a great ad. Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And if Yanni Hakanpaa can play, if he can play, that'll help the PK as well. So there's reason for optimism with the Berube system under Brad Treliving. They should have just been in an administration ago, in my opinion.
I think you make an excellent point, and we're trying our best to dissect the first month of the season, but we all know in this conversation, it all matters what they do in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Cooley, my major takeaway from 6-4-1 in October, it wasn't all about the big three, and I guess you can include Tavares. They've all been good, but I think the depth has been a big story for me thus far. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, everyone rated Florida. Like, it's one thing to get Oliver Ekman-Larsson, right, gentlemen? But Steven Lorentz, like traditionally, that is more conducive to a fourth-line player who can bang and crash. What is the goal of your team in the playoffs? As we've seen, we'll use Florida. Hard to play against. Sam Bennett's of the world. Gustav Forsling, Nico Mikkel on the back end. You know, when they have Lomberg and Oposo, they have to be harder to play against. You know, I still don't know how I feel about David Camp long term and the fourth line and everything else. But Steven Lorentz does that. Pacioretty does. He just tripoded and leaned on people. Sometimes you just want to get in the way instead of doing the old, I was there, but I wasn't there, Tortorella. So I think overall that part's good. And it's good about being able to have people you can rely on further down your lineup that help you and don't hurt you. And I think that's one of the things that 6-4-1 has done. There was some weirdness in there when they were 4-2 and they kind of slipped off the map a little bit. But overall, I think it's very positive, Nick.
Who do you think's the biggest factor coming in? I mean, you got Stolars, you got guys on the back end, you got some of these guys up front. Who do you think's primed to make the biggest impact on this roster?
I think a lot of the players are. I mentioned the defense. The defense had to get. This is the best defense under the Matthews administration. Simply put, Chris Tanev, yeah, I wish he was 27 and he's not. He's their best all-around defenseman. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, those two have solidified the top four. Morgan Rielly's better. Morgan Rielly at times makes you go, he's putting a square peg into a round hole. He's not doing those types of things. Maybe he was upset about not being on power play one at the beginning, but Morgan Rielly doesn't kill penalties. Why? Because he's an offensive defenseman. He needs to be sheltered with someone. So I think he has played well. Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson have helped. And I think Hakanpaa will as well. We talked about Steven Lorentz on the fourth line. If Pacioretty can play, because I'm not sure Nick Robertson's going to ever be a contributor on a very good team. He should probably be in San Jose if I was his agent.
True.
So I think in that regard, you see where guys kind of slot in the lineup. But who's going to help the most? Having a defense that can check the Bennetts, the Reinhardts, the Marchands, the Pasternaks, and not always be a step behind. I think that's the most important thing, gentlemen.
And I think it's interesting you make that point because to me, a week ago, there were two guys that just didn't really fit into this roster. Number one was Timothy Liljegren. He's with San Jose. And still, like Nick Robertson, square peg, round hole. It has that feel. Do you have the same feel in Robertson long-term with the Leafs?
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, who would you rather have on the third line? I think I'd have Calle Jarnkrok, at least for now when he comes back. So it's Domi, Bobby McMahon, now the second line left winger, third line left winger, so he can score. He's big as well. We know what Max brings, and then Jarnkrok. Robertson, 1 goal in 10. I mean, I just talked about Jay contributing. That's 1 goal in a month. That's not good enough. I see something there, not on a top 6 or top 9 on a cup contending team. I think for his sake as well, when everyone's back and healthy, he'll probably move. The Leafs have a lot of players. Connor Dewar, they sent 2 guys to the Barleys. They got rid of Timothy Liljegren. So they're in a good situation on the roster. It's nothing personal with Nick Robertson. He's got great skill. Chicago or San Jose is where I would want to be if I was Nick Robertson. Or if I was, Nick Robertson.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the contribution's quite there. Speaking of someone who's on the opposite side of that spectrum, Matthew Knies, we've kept our eyes on him since coming out of college, and he's done nothing but step up to the plate and produce. Where do you see him as far as his pending free agency coming up here? And you think he's going to go long-term? You think he's going to want to do a bridge deal? What do you see with Matthew Knies?
Well, if it's a bridge deal, usually it means someone's angry or someone doesn't believe in someone, right? I mean, that's kind of the way Alexis Lafreniere, there was a bridge deal because we weren't so sure, and then he got the deal. So the future's bright for Matthew Knies. He can almost do whatever he wants as Matthew's light out there. He's got size, he's got strength, he's got skill. It's a great second-round pick. And the organization should be very happy about drafting and developing their own like they did with Matthew Knies. It's a perfect fit with 34 and 16. I think we need another year to find out where he is as we compare him to an Alexis Lafreniere and a contract like that. I like bridges because I'd rather pay more later than get it wrong. I don't think they'll get it wrong with him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the future is very bright, and he can stay in Toronto basically as long as he wants.
I put this info out during the game against the Kraken on Thursday. What I'm hearing from people around his camp will say is 4 years or less. It's going to be a bridge contract rather than an 8-year deal, at least what they're looking at right now, which, as you just mentioned, could make sense because I think the AAV is going to be an important part about this, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're juggling it like everyone else is. I mean, when you talk about 4 years, so we're at 88, we're going to be at 92 or 93 next year, then jump to 97, then over 100. That's why Shesterkin's saying, why am I giving deals? McDavid's going to change the landscape as well if he wants to. So I think in that regard that I don't, from what you've just alluded to, Nick, I don't sense any hostility. And sometimes going less allows you to figure out what's going to happen later down the road. I mean, 4 years is a long time for this group because something has to happen in the playoffs that's really good over the next 4 years. And I think that they're in a very good spot. I don't know if you guys feel this. Is it different? Let me ask you this. Is, after 1 month this month compared to last year, is it different in Toronto, guys?
I feel like there's a different aura. The way they're winning, it hasn't been seen before. That hiccup and bump in the road, like you talked about, when their record wasn't looking all that sterling, I think is part of the growing pains of understanding what works and what doesn't. And I think that when you look at them win in the ways that they are, it's more conducive to winning playoff style hockey games. And I think that's the Craig Berube effect. And I think they're not there yet. They're not perfect. Nobody is. But if they're doing this in October and they keep going in the right direction, I'm pretty excited to see what they can do in April.
Look, the jury's still out for me, boys. I know this is great, but it's a stern reminder, guys, when we see those efforts against St. Louis and Columbus. Cooley, to me, it was just a reminder of what could happen,
That's right. I'd rather be in a spot where you have to start winning games against the Columbuses and San Jose's of the world. If that's going to be one of the things that needs to convince us or you, Nick, I agree. That the egg in Columbus was last year and the year before. I mean, too many eggs, and that cost them the division, which means you got to go through Florida, Boston, Rangers, New Jersey, and then and that road makes it so much more difficult. So let's see if there's less eggs moving forward and beating the teams. I mean, it was about a year ago at this time. I remember going through Pittsburgh and Chicago because I made the trip. That they were the king of having 3-1 leads, like I think they did in Nashville in late October last year, and lose all those games. And can't hold a 2-1, can't hold a 3-1 lead. If that continues and they lay those eggs, it won't be different. It feels different because the defense is way better with those 2 and maybe 3 guys with the coaching staff. And I think Matthews has realized what McDavid did too. It doesn't matter if I get 50 or 100 or whatever. The points that matter are the 2 that are given out in October till April. And the same 2 in October are the same 2 you get in April. So if you leave points on the table, you've blown it. So it doesn't matter if I get 48, 58, 68. It's what we do, not I do. And I'm seeing that now. Well, let's see what they do against St. Louis and Minnesota and those teams of the world. But overall right now, I think I'd rather be 6-4-1 with having to beat the St. Louis's and Columbuses moving forward as opposed to not being competitive against the better teams.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It is a process, but you also mentioned before, those wasted years. And I remember when they brought in Babcock and why they brought in Babcock. They thought this group needed that accountability. Turns out it was the wrong guy, didn't work out. So then they scramble, forget what the process was supposed to be, go to this kind of more of a player's coach. And I'm sorry, it seemed like a country club. There didn't seem to be the accountability. You'd watch the inconsistency in their games. And now you're starting to see this Craig Berube effect, and the players might have some adjusting to do, but I am a firm believer that what I'm seeing is the right path that they're getting on. And I just think that's the Craig Berube effect.
Yeah, and Brad gets credit for watching the club last year, figuring it out, realizing that they didn't think they were going to win with Timothy Liljegren as a 5-6, so they make a move there. They'd rather have Steven Lorentz. The Pacioretty situation, I wondered if he would make it out of October. Now you're going, wow, that's something. If there's something with 67, 91, and 88, like that's found money to me. That I didn't see or expect it. I wondered if he'd be in and out of the lineup and then announced in December the legs, ankle's not good, and I might have to step aside. So I think, and for his cost, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. Who would you rather have right now, Pacioretty or Nick Robertson in the playoffs? You don't even have to answer it. We all know what the answer is. So I understand the a little trepidation about let's see where they are at U.S. Thanksgiving. But I'd rather be in this spot with some of the players we mentioned, especially Tanev and OEL, and my dark horse is Hakanpaa, as opposed to where they were with the similar group last year, Nick.
Cool. Let me picture it this way. 10 years ago, you and I were working together at NHL Network Radio. If I were to tell you, come up to you at work and be like, man, Pacioretty's so physical, man, OEL's so physical, what would you say to me? Like, I think that's the crazy part about this is the two most physical players in the Maple Leafs in the month of October were Max Pacioretty and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. It's nuts to me.
Yeah, and OEL got fined. He was so mean to Jake Gensel. So I'd rather what's the phrase? I'd rather do something wrong than ask for permission. I'd rather apologize. Lindsay taught me, be shot like a lion, not a lamb. So I'd rather say, oop, did that hurt, as opposed to whoops. And again, it's only 11 games. It's only October. When it really comes down to it, you grab the piece of meat and you throw it in the corner and you say, who's going to get it? And it doesn't matter. It's about skill. It's about will. And Willie Nylander, Mitch Marner, and some of the others that have failed in the physicality. Physical means taking it to the net. You're Mitch Marner. Physical for you means drop the shoulder. I'm coming at you, McAvoy, and let's go. That's physical to me. It doesn't mean being Jay Rosehill and having to scrap. Will they take it to the house and have a yard sale when we get to that? If they do, there's the change. If they go around the ring, around the rosy perimeter, oh boy, we're not going to like that, and then it's not going to change. So really, game 83 does matter, but put yourself in a spot for game 83 by how you play the first 82.
There you go, baby. You got me jacked up today, Steve.
I love it. I love talking with you guys. This is great. I love anytime you want me, I'm ready.
Willie, before we let you go, the Four Nations roster, I think we're a month away from the announcement. There's been a lot of convo around Chris Tanev. Do you think Tanev makes the team? Do you like the fit?
I love Tanev. Do I think he makes it? They'd have to have 8 defensemen. I'm in a group right now where I believe that Taves and Makar will be together. I don't know, people haven't talked about Pietrangelo. He's having a really good start. Theodore moves over because he shoots left but plays the right side with Pietrangelo. Now they're familiar with each other. And then Morrissey, I would think, and Evan Bouchard would be the 7. And then we talk about who the 8th would be. And what we learned from Bobby Clark in the summit was you don't take a Rob Zamner, because then when Sakic gets hurt, Adam Oates, we left him home. Oh my God, I needed a Hall of Fame center. So what you learn is have someone there when a star gets hurt. I can figure out when someone else gets hurt. So that's my 6. If Tanev is the 7, that's pretty good. But you're leaving a lot of other guys off. But it is a short tournament. It is short. So that's the one thing about being older. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a sprint. It's not a marathon, this event.
I'll tell you, that crease scares the shit out of me, Cooley. We'll leave it at that, man. Great stuff. Great energy as per usual. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks. Keep up the great work, guys.
Thanks, Cooley.
The one and only Steve Kulus. Make sure to check him out on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio. Hockey historian is right. I love the fact that he remembered one of your 5.5 goals in the NHL.
I was going to say, if he was a coach, he would have played me a little more. It sounds like I was almost uncomfortable him talking about me in such a positive light. But no, obviously a guy that follows the Leafs strongly, understands what's going on and has his finger on the pulse. So wicked to have him on. And I even pump my tires a little bit. So I'll take that early in the morning as well. Yeah,
Cooley's got great memory, man. Like, he watches a lot of hockey. He's dialed in, has a lot of friends around the league, and I just love his passion for the Maple Leafs. But man, like, even the chat was echoing the sentiments. He was preaching, man. He was telling the truth, the way it's got to be. Like, even his accurate breakdown of Mitch Marner, it's like, not go fight people, lower that shoulder and let that opponent know, whether it's McAvoy or somebody else, it's going to be a long night. And I mean, it's as simple as that. But if they do that, man, this team's in a good spot, Rosie.
Yeah, it's a buy-in from everybody, man. And I think it starts with the big boys. That's why you've seen, some of the, what do you want to call it? Some of the call-outs on the bench where, an Austin Matthews or a Mitch Marner or a Willie Nylander gets off the ice and just gets a bloody earful. Because back in the day, it was like, oh, they're our best players. Oh, we can't say anything to them. Or, oh, they're the ones that get us the goals. So we just let them go about it the way they want to go about it. That experiment has blown up in the lab. So it's time to go back to a more old school way of doing it. And I think it starts with those big boys, and Craig Berube is holding them accountable, like that word we've been buzzing since the moment he got hired. And if those guys start doing things the right ways, then I promise you the Lorenzes of the world and everyone else on the roster is going to have to follow suit. And honestly, it comes down to doing those things the right way. If you have a 60% chance of, pulling off this play, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. 40% chance it's going the other way in an odd man rush. Not a chance in hell, Willie. That has to be chipped behind the D-man and then chased. It has to be in their end. You can't be being fancy with it. Taking it back across your red line, that you can never, ever, ever see that again. It's just not acceptable. And I think there was a time in recent memory where that would have just gone by the wayside. No big deal. Let's not even mention it. And now it's a big earful from the big dog behind the bench. And there's a reason they're starting with the big boys, because they are the leaders and they're the ones that have to make the change first. And yeah, I think that'll lead to doing the right things, not giving up that one bad goal in the big game, not losing to, like, with those habits are gone. You don't lose to Columbus anymore. You don't ever lose to San Jose. You have your identity where you show up and you do it the way that you've been doing it every single night. And that's your formula for every single game. And all of a sudden you have this identity, which is a word I've probably beat to death on this pod. Yeah. But it's just like, why do you think the Florida Panthers are who they are? Look at how they play. Does anyone hit the brakes at the friggin' red line and then take it back across and then get stripped and go? Nobody would ever dream of doing that. And the Leafs need to get that kind of stuff out of their game, develop that identity, and then they're good enough to win. I mean, everyone's believed for a long time. That's why these guys are still together, that these guys are good enough to do something special. It's just all those intangibles have not been accounted for.
All about those learning lessons, my friend. Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video is here, the exclusive home for the NHL on Monday nights in Canada. Next on the slate, November 4th, coming up on Monday. Sheldon Keefe's New Jersey Devils visit the Connor McDavid-less Edmonton Oilers. Don't forget, you can watch Prime Monday Night Hockey on Prime Video at no added cost to your membership. Just check out the sports section when you're inside the app. Additionally, if you currently don't have a Prime membership, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. Additionally, students are able to sign up for a 6-month free trial at amazon.ca/Amazon Prime. Prime Monday Night Hockey. It's on Monday. It's on Prime. A little unfortunate we're not going to see McDavid on Monday Night Hockey coming up, but the New Jersey Devils playing really, really well, coming off a 6-0 win in Vancouver in the Hughes Bowl. But looking forward to the weekend's festivities, Rosie, for the Maple Leafs, a back-to-back on the road. So you got Craig Berube's revenge return on Saturday and then at Minnesota on Sunday. First and foremost, the crease. A lot of conversation has been made. Joseph Woll's from Missouri. He's from Missouri. He's from the nearby St. Louis area. Should he start against the Blues?
I don't care. I mean, I don't think
neither.
Craig cares about that stuff. Like, he's not a warm, fuzzy, oh, what a nice storyline. He's going to go with what his gut is, and I don't give a shit where he's from. Tell his parents to watch it on the TV tomorrow. I don't think it matters. Team first mentality. However he's feeling after that game, if he wants to go again or put Stoli in or whatever the case, I really don't care. They're going to hit those two games in what order it comes in. Is totally up to those guys, because the only ones who know best are the people in that room. So it's kind of a toss up to me. I'm not concerned about it, but that's the spot that they put themselves in, thanks to having, a solid performance yesterday and getting Stoli to be back, with his chest maybe puffed out and having a bit of confidence. If they drop that ball, it's a different story. So mission accomplished for getting Wall kind of in a spot where he's probably feeling like a premier goaltender again. Not that his performance was that outrageous, but just mentally, you need to get that under your feet, or else you're always feeling like you have yet to come back. And that's what happened that first game there. And if you want to give them another crack there in St. Louis, great. It's up to those guys on who's going to play what game in my mind.
Look, I think it goes without saying Wall's got a lot of confidence in moxie in his game. Comes out for the post-game scrum yesterday wearing a muscle shirt, man. The guy's in a really, really good spot right now. I thought he was very consistent, very solid. But this reminds me of game 2 of the season when Anthony Stolarz had to start the opener, and it was a back-to-back, and he's a New Jersey native, and they went to Dennis Hildeby. Great story. Good for you, Joseph. You're a Missouri native, but no, I'm going to Anthony Stolarz on Saturday. He has earned that start. Hockey Night in Canada. My return, my being Craig Berube into St. Louis, a big game for me. We got pummeled last time. I want to beat these guys. I go with Stolarz on Saturday, and then I go with Wall on Sunday. Plain and simple.
Yeah, makes sense. That's fine. I just know that those storylines and those fuzzy things aren't usually in the coach's mind. There's so many times I've been playing in Calgary or Edmonton, and I've got friends and family there, and I get scratched. And it's like, do you want a guy that's buzzing, that's like fired up, that's ready to work his absolute bag off and do something, at the highest end of an effort level? Then put that kid in while he's playing in his hometown. But they don't always feel that. And it's not always on the coach's mind. I don't even know who would go into his ear and say, hey, just to let you know, Wolf's from Missouri and St. Louis is in Missouri, so that would be kind of a feel-good story. Oh my God, I'm going to totally reinvent my my game plan for that one. Thanks for telling me. Like, no, this is big business, man, and they don't really think first about that stuff. If it works out, great, but that's not the forefront of their decision making.
I was going to say, if there's one guy, again, we've talked about this the last couple of days, who does not give a fuck, and sorry, I know you hate my swearing sometimes, but it's Craig Berube. He does not care, man. It's all about the 2 points. It's all about the process. He doesn't care if Nylander wants more ice time. Nylander played like 17:34, which is well below his ice time again from last year. Chief doesn't care. He's going to put the best roster possible on the ice. That's why I think this is a non-story. I don't think it's a factor. We'll see what happens over the weekend, but nevertheless, it is a pretty big back-to-back. This team is feeling much better about life, and a chance to show St. Louis a bit what's up after what happened last week, too, to start on Saturday, right?
Yeah, redemption would be nice. That was
Yeah.
during their 3-game balk there, where, hey, you're going through some growing pains and learning what works and what isn't, and it's a process. I'm looking at my TSN app, man. It says Willie played the most out of all the forwards with 20 minutes and 48 seconds. Played exactly the same as Riley. Played a little bit more than Marner. I don't know. There's lots of different numbers getting chucked around, but I just really don't want the Willie ice time saga to become a theme in this market, because there's nothing about it that's positive, and I would just rather that go right away. And like Chief says, yeah, I try to get him out there when he deserves it as much as possible. End of discussion. And although he had 2 goals there, I mean, when you look at the stat sheet, it's like, oh my God, Willie, that's incredible. And it like is, but think about the 2 shifts where he got the 2 goals. Like, he's standing back door and the puck comes right to him. Bang. Okay. That's not your whole 60. That doesn't sum up your 60-minute effort, man. That doesn't sum up all the intangible things that are required for your leadership to be doing out there. Just getting your 2 backdoor goals, that's not enough. And it's great that you do that. And yeah, that's enough to maybe get, on the scoreboard and on the score sheet and maybe get you over the hump for the win, as opposed to not scoring those 2 goals. But there's so many other things, like that one shift that he got chewed out for in particular, that you have to just do the right way. And that reverberates through the whole lineup as well. So I really just think that those building blocks they're putting in place and creating that identity is those things right there. And I love to see, even though a guy's on the score sheet twice, get an earful when he has a completely bonehead move from there, because it has to get deleted from their whole repertoire if they're going to have success in April.
Tell you what, who's ever running that TSN app probably on the same grog that Tammy took part in on Halloween, because Nylander played 17:34. Your boy Mitchell Marner played 20:46, which was a high for all forwards. So I think Nylander was averaging around 18 minutes a night in the first 10 games. So actually a couple seconds below, but it doesn't matter. The guy's producing back-to-back multi-point efforts for him. Zach Phillips writes in the chat, great job on After Dark last night, by the way, with Tyler Ennis. Is Rosie doing Movember? That's the question Zach has.
No, I donate in other ways, not with my upper lip. I honestly would be, I'll be that 15-year-old kid who just started growing hair and thinks he's a badass and grows these catfish curling whiskers that curl into his bloody mouth. It's gross. No one wants to see that. Not even the Cancer Awareness Center of Canada.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe I do donate in other ways, just not growing the stash this year.
Our group chats are always fire, man. But like we always talk about like you really want to piss somebody off. You tell them they have shitty internet. For you, it's like you tell them or ask them nicely to grow a mustache if you want to grow a mustache, and you're like, no, no, thank you, don't want to do it. I respect
Oh.
it, man, because I've done Movembers so many different times. I've raised so much money. I don't do it as much anymore. But I think it's a great cause, and Zach's our captain on this. He's wearing the C.
Yeah, hey, we just hitch our wagon to Zach and
Yep.
let him do it. We know he's got that big pubic beard he's wearing most of the time, and now it's going to be a big pube mustache, I guess. So we're way to go, Zach. We appreciate it.
Sir Boblaw's current status, Rosie, 10 days of facial hair growth. Nick, 10 minutes. You're so right. I'm so
Yeah.
Italian. I got hair everywhere, man. I just need a full body day cleanse or something going on here.
Get on the laser machine. Yeah, I'm not as hairy of a man. My brother's kind of hairy. He can grow it all, but never been that way. And I'm just not going to go down that road of the catfish mustache for the entire month. Thank you, anyways, for asking.
6-hole need a beard growing contest between Kadri, Bautista, and Alberga. I don't know. That would be a pretty damn good contest. I don't know if I'd pull it off, but I do grow a good beard. It takes a couple weeks, but definitely interesting. And Zach saying "whoa" because he's catching strays in the chat. He's not even on, or in the show. He's not even on.
Welcome to your world, hey?
I know, catching strays. Holy crap, man. Like the chat just likes to eat me up. My eyebrows are a focus of conversation on a daily basis in the chat. But if you're here to watch a show, I don't care what you talk about within reason. Anyways, it's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase today as we get set for the back-to-back this weekend. We were all over the Leafs bouncing back, so to speak, against Seattle, winning that game. But I had the multi-goal effort. But we got to give a lot of credit to our guy, Zach, once again. Hit the Matthew Knies anytime goal, hit the Nylander anytime goal, hit a Pacioretty assist. The guy was on fire, has been on fire. So make sure right now that you're tailing his bets. But the multi-goal effort wasn't meant to be for Matthews. He did score one, but I'm jumping back on that. I think the Maple Leafs win convincingly. And I'm calling a multi-goal effort for Austin Matthews. Has to hit at some point.
Yeah, I guess Zach's picks overshadowed mine, but I had that Leafs in the first period plus 140, and
Nice.
I was kind of thinking she was no go, but what was it, 6 seconds
4
left?
seconds left. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Nice guy leans on that twig and rips another one home. Love that. I'm going to stick with that. I think these guys, if all's going according to plan, they're understanding what it takes and they show up on time and their starts are better. And I want them to build off of, these last couple games. And I want to take them again in the first period. Think they're going to respond the same way that they did in the first period last night and get the lead after period number 1.
I like it. I envision the Maple Leafs winning this game, and I think convincingly. We talked about the revenge aspect the first time around. This is the true revenge game, right? You're returning to that building. If you're Craig Berube, some fond memories in that building. You want to give it to them. And I think the boys will rise up in this game with or without Joseph Wall, who's from Missouri. I love that, man.
Because those
You're
narratives.
from Missouri. You should play this game.
Seriously, settle down with that. If that's how you're picking your starting goaltenders, you got problems here, boys. But well, it would be about talking to him afterwards, seeing how his ankle feels. How, are you sore? Your groins haven't been in those positions like at that level for a while. Like, is that extra day necessary to you? Those are the kind of things that matter when you're choosing your goaltender. But the bottom line is there's 2 very capable goaltenders that I think most people in this market would have confidence in going into either game.
Looking forward to Tuesday as well. I'm going to that game. The Boston Bruins are in tough shape, and I can't sit here and say I'm bothered by it. It's great to see. They lose 8-2 last night to the Carolina Hurricanes. So, Rosie, we'll leave it at that. Looking forward to Monday's show. It's going to be jam-packed once again. We got 2 games to cover from over the weekend. So have a great weekend, and we'll reconvene. And don't forget daylight savings Saturday night into Sunday, buddy.
Oh, God, do I hate that. Oh,
the falling back, though. That's the best part. I love that.
you like walking out of the 4 p.m. practice, walking out of the rink and it's pitch black? Yeah, I love that. Being ready for bed at 7:45 every day for 7 months. No, that's great. I love that. No question. Dumbest thing in the world. Let's move on.
I thought there was a motion filed years ago that we weren't going to do that anymore, but yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I think it was damn close to getting passed,
Yeah.
but I think it was gonna stay on the fall schedule, so it
no
wouldn't
thanks.
be so bright out. And it doesn't need to be bright out till 10 o'clock. I mean, I've been golfing at 10:20 at night in June before, and I don't think you necessarily need to do that, but I can't stand the 4:45. You're just done picking up the kids from school and it's getting dark out. I mean, I'm sorry, that's depressing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Time change alone. We'll be back with you on Monday. Make sure move to Saskatchewan. 6-hole saying no daylight
They
savings.
don't do it.
I love how
That's right.
different provinces have different strategies.
I don't know how you do that.
so
What a
ridiculous.
gong show, especially back in the day when you actually have to set your clocks and stuff. What a gong show that would be for a little while, whether you are or aren't doing it. But nowadays, I mean, you pretty much don't even have to know what's going on. Your phone will do it for you. So that's kind of a nice touch. But I know good old Sasky boys doing it the way they want.
It was the perfect excuse in school. Oh, I thought that the time changed and I woke up wrong. And then you missed like the first period of class in high school. I thought it was a tremendous piece of business I would do on a yearly basis. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for bearing with us all week long. At the Leafs Station 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Thank you to Steve Kouleas of NHL Network Radio for dropping by. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Monday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.